Welcome back to Patriots No Huddle, brought to you by PatsFans.com. Derek Haven, Steve Balestrieri, Mike Diabate. As always, we are so excited to go ahead and talk about all the news today. We got a lot to talk about. We got to dive in. We're going right in to Patriots cutdowns across the league. Everyone's going from their 90-man rosters to their 53-man rosters. But there's been a couple of moves leading up to today. But as guys are going through the waiver wire, teams are getting their practice squads kind of put together and acclimated. It's always kind of chaotic as a news day. There's been a couple of extensions for some guys that we've talked about as Patriots targets that we're going to get to, and a couple of guys I want to mention to you two gentlemen that I think Patriots fans should keep their eye on, and we're going to get to that here shortly. But before we do anything, Steve, how you doing?
Hey, we got us a roster, at least for today. You know, that might change a lot by tomorrow, but, you know, we have us a roster. 8 wide receivers. Can you believe it? Does it sound like Joe Castiglione?
It might change by tomorrow. It might be actually what my wife would say to me. As far as you know, our stance together. Who knows? I mean, I'm not sure. I stay in hot water like a Maine lobster. Mike, what's up, buddy? How are you today?
I'm great, Derek. I'm doing well. Steve is absolutely right. The New England Patriots have a roster. Yeah, it might be a little on the fluid side right now. A lot of changes. Who knows? Maybe a lot, maybe a little, but there will be changes made, assumingly, to this roster prior to Patriots stepping on the field to host the Las Vegas Raiders on September 7th. But, Steve, you mentioned 8 wide receivers, but the slot awakens. That's right. The force is strong with young Efton Chisholm III, who earned his way onto this roster. Well-deserved. We got a lot to talk about. I'm sure his name's going to come up again, but a lot of players I think we want to get to today.
Oh yeah, we got a lot. We got a ton to get to, so we got to be quick. But you know, I do want to say I appreciate everyone listening live. Appreciate everyone listening later, watching us on our YouTube channel, on our PatsFans.com YouTube channel. Please do leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. If you do, if it keeps us high in those podcast rankings, so other Patriots fans can find us. Incredibly helpful. Gentlemen, real quickly, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, as we just mentioned this pre-show, but Trey Hendrickson, Terry McLaurin, both signed extensions within the last 24 hours. You know, deadlines usually spurs action, and that's what this is the case there. But we have spent time on the show discussing going after these guys. Do you guys have any following up thoughts on these two guys locking things up? Obviously, the Patriots aren't going to get them. Are you disappointed? Are you still thinking there's a possibility there? Steve, I'll go to you first.
Do I think there's a possibility? No. I didn't really believe there was to begin with. I thought both of those guys would be re-signed. It just made too much sense for them to stay exactly where they are. And I expect, you know, Jerry Jones will do the same thing in a couple of days, right? Because
with Micah Parsons,
talk about rosters, and he'll want to make his big splash. And, you know, there'll be hugs and kisses, and all will be forgiven. And then Dallas will go to the Super Bowl.
What about you, Mike? What do you think about this? Because, you know, I mean, Terry was kind of like a pipe dream. You know, I just couldn't see the path for him getting out, especially when you have a quarterback going into your second year and you just went to the NFC Championship game. You have money. You just have an owner that is a billionaire. You know, so it's not like cash flow is an issue, okay? And it's just like this guy has done nothing but pretty much be productive. You know, Trey, I could kind of get it a little bit more because they just paid, you know, a couple wide receivers and Burrow, and it's like, okay, well, maybe they don't do it, but it was only a 1-year deal, so maybe next year he hits the market. But I think it makes sense for both teams to get their respective extensions done with both star players. I don't really see anything else more to add from my end.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And by the way, Steve's previous comments, folks, were brought to you by the early 1990s, which was the last time the Cowboys even sniffed the Super Bowl. But bottom line, I think what we want to talk about right now is the news of the day. And yeah, Hendrickson, McLaurin, I mean, these almost seemed like inevitable moves. When news first broke about their availability, naturally, Patriots fans, everybody's going to get excited about the prospect of adding two players who can change the complexity of the way you play offense and defense, respectively. Everyone would love to have Terry McLaurin in their wide receivers room. Everyone would love to add Trey Hendrickson to their pass rush. You have to be practical in terms of which teams could do it. Patriots certainly had the money to be able to pull off these moves, no question about that, but was it practical to think that they were going to end up anywhere other than Washington or Cincinnati? So these two teams now have a chance to reset. Terry's going to be back in the nation's capital. We know that's going to be a good thing for Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. For the Bengals, this is a huge move. I mean, you can make the argument that Trey Hendrickson is their defense. So without him, that was really going to crumble like a house of cards. Bringing him in, adding him, and making sure he's a part of that fold this year keeps them in the hunt, or at least in the conversation for contenders in the AFC. So, yeah, I think there was an inevitability to these moves, and now we'll see what the future is going to bring.
Absolutely. Well, enough on that. I just wanted to address it because we have spent some time over the past couple of shows discussing the possibilities, so, it's all good. But, I figure, today is the day we're recording this, August 26th, Tuesday at 8:15 Eastern, and I know it's roster cutdown day, and there's a lot of guys. It's kind of a sad day. A lot of people celebrate these cuts, but a lot of people are losing jobs and losing their dreams of performing. It's always sad. I was talking to my buddy Jake Andrews, who made the cut and I think is going to be the starting center for Houston this year, and he said that heads were hanging kind of low from yesterday and into this morning because they're going to lose buddies. It's like you joined a brotherhood and then you lose friends and families, and that's tough. It's tough to go around. I mean, these guys make a lot of money and it's cool, but at the same time, it is a harsh business, and it comes and goes quickly. So it's not something to be celebrated, but it is something we have to still discuss. So I figure, guys, we'll just quickly kind of rapid fire through each position. So Patriots initial 53-man roster. You got Drake May, Joshua Dobbs. I don't think that's surprising. Yeah, I do think that they're going to add a third quarterback. Ben Woolridge they got rid of. I could see him coming back. I think Tommy DeVito is strongly on the table, as you two mentioned on our last show. I think both of those guys make sense, but I do think they'll add someone to the practice squad. There's no way there's not going to be there's not a third quarterback on the practice squad. So Drake May, Joshua Dobbs, guys, right on there, and then I'll do two positions at a time just for the sake of time. We have Ramondre Stevenson, Travion Henderson, Antonio Gibson. Again, all not surprises. I thought they might keep either Jermichael Hasty or Terrell Jennings as the fourth running back. I don't think that we should rule out adding another one. I think that would make a lot of sense. But Michael, what do you for the first two positions? Any thoughts on these groups?
Yeah, this is not a surprise for me here. Obviously, I mean, you look at the way the Patriots are going to run things. They're going to have a triple threat running back core consisting of Stevenson, Henderson, and then, of course, Gibson. But they will bring a running back. From what I'm hearing tonight as we record this at about 8:15 on Tuesday, which is cut down day, Terrell Jennings looks to be the guy. I'd look for him to be in Foxborough on Wednesday when this team hits the practice field, and then you'll probably see him, obviously, be a member of the scout team unless the Patriots decide to elevate him to the 53-man or maybe a game day elevation on occasion when they really want to go run heavy and have that guy in the backfield that they can rely on. So really not a big not a whole lot of surprise here for me that they go with these three. I think they looked at the roster, identified other areas that needed maybe a little bit more help, and they decided that the three that they had were more than worthy to get them for the day.
Yeah, I agree. Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, again, no surprise at quarterback whatsoever. We've been calling that one for a while. If they did bring back Ben Wooldridge, it would be on the practice squad. But I'm with you. I think Tommy DeVito's out there. It might be a fit for him because he could conceivably compete with Joshua Dobbs for the backup role.
And
I mean,
hey, I just want to throw something to you, Steve, too. And I got some heat from this on Twitter. So people are very divided on this topic. But Bailey Zappi was released from the Chiefs, and I wouldn't rule that out either. I mean, I'm not a Bailey Zappi guy. I wasn't at the time. I'm not now. I don't think he's a, I don't know him as a person. I'm not saying that it wouldn't be a potentially bad add. You're talking about a third quarterback, but let's be honest. He knows Josh McDaniels' offense, and he's been in the building. So I don't think ruling him. I think ruling him out would be kind of unjust. You know what I mean? Like I just think you can't just throw him out of the picture. I think he's on the table.
Well, it could be. I mean, I particularly would not. Ruled that as a big win for them.
I'm not advocating.
But
I'm
he
not
burned
advocating
his,
for
he burned his
him at
bridges
all.
with the previous regime. So there's a whole new staff here. So possibly they may look past all of that. Although I would think Elliot Wolf wouldn't be too keen on the idea.
I'm sure he wouldn't. I'm just saying it's on the table.
It's obviously a possibility.
Yeah, it's on the table. That's all I'm saying. Mike, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's no argument against kicking the tires on someone that knows the system, who's been here before, and who knows how to start a football game. I mean, Bailey Zappi knows how to start in New England. But again, I think Steve brings up an interesting point about Elliot Wolf still being in the building. I don't think they necessarily want to, even if there is, no remnants of the bridge burned that still exists in Foxborough, you still want to go back to the future in that regard. I think they're probably looking to move on fresh and have, a fresh look for all the quarterbacks here. So, I mean, I can't rule it out, but I just don't see it happening.
I don't see it happening either, but my ears did perk up a little bit when I saw that when I saw that news, just because I was like, there are connections. There's an obvious need for a third quarterback.
Right.
I saw your post, by the way, and I knew you were going to catch flack for that.
That's fine. I mean, I wasn't a Bailey Zappi fan then. I mean, I almost swore, but Miguel, I didn't.
I was going to throw a couple of barbs at you, but I figured you'd be getting enough from Twitter.
Oh yeah, I got plenty. But it's sometimes, Steve, you just throw things out there, and I know they're going to get a third quarterback, so I'm just looking at where they're going to get it from, and his name deserves to be on the list. You don't have to agree with it, you don't have to like it, but it's at least on the list. That's all I'm saying. Guys, 8 wide receivers, unbelievable. Usually, it used to be 5. And then 6 was like, okay, wow, we're getting really, high up there. We thought 6, maybe 7, someone had to go. They kept 8. And I think that speaks to someone in particular who I'm going to mention in a second. But 8 receivers: Stephon Diggs, Matt Collins, Pop Douglas, Kyle Williams, Kayshon Boutte, Kendrick Bourne, Javon Baker, Efton Chisholm. I think it speaks volumes about 2 of these people in particular. Chisholm, obviously, for his performance in the preseason. I don't even know if we need to have much of a conversation about it, because we've already talked about it. Anyone who's paid attention to the show about it. Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing about the guys on this list is Javon Baker. and how the coaching staff must view him as a special teamer and someone who they still kind of believe in. And that, to me, is, I think that's the story here. That's just me, Mike.
Mm.
Don't you think that, you figure, okay, if they go to 7 like crazy, like we talked about Jalen Polk rehabbing, maybe they trade Kendrick Bourne. Hell, they still could. But Javon Baker being on this roster initially, which we know could change, still to me speaks to him and what he's done and how he's impressed this new coaching staff and regime.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head, Derek. And look, throughout the day, you started to hear and maybe see the handwriting on the wall that Javon Baker's time here in New England might be coming to an end. All the prognosticators out there are saying, oh, he removed all his stuff from his social media page. And yeah, that means he's leaving. He's out of here. No question about it. See you later, Javon. I never put any stock into any of that.
I reached out to somebody last night as soon as that news started coming out, and then they told me nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
But they didn't elaborate. I can't tell you who it is. They didn't elaborate on it. It wasn't anything. They just said it was simply just that.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to try to look to that, looking to the social media is like looking to the cookie. I mean, you're not going to really find much there. But in any case, when you look at what Mike Vrabel had to say about Javon Baker in the closing few press conferences before roster cutdown day, and you hear about he's progressing in the right direction, he's putting in the work, he's recognizing his role. Those key phrases that Mike Vrabel used, and I'm paraphrasing here, some of those aren't his exact words, but the sentiment is exactly what he meant to convey. It shows you that there's a respect level that really, I think, started to grow in Javon, or for Javon, I should say, by this coaching staff as training camp went on. I can tell you right off the bat, from the moment Vrabel and his new staff walked through the door, Baker was one of the guys they could not wait to see in person. He's one of the guys they could not wait to coach and take a look at what he had and the abilities that he had. A friend of mine who covered UCF for a number of years said that this kid was one of the most electrifying athletes he ever saw walk through those doors. He said game-breaking burst was the what he described that we would get a chance to get to see here in New England. And I think Javon recognizes that. Maybe he came in thinking that his talent alone was going to carry him. I think he realizes now he's got to put in the cerebral work along with the physical talents to be able to get what he needs. I think once he harnessed that and he recognized it, yes, there's still miles to go before he reaches his potential. Yes, but I think the Patriots see the effort now to move in the right direction, and they don't want to take the chance of leaving him on the cutting room floor. So, yeah, tip of the cap to Javon, and definitely happy that the Patriots brass saw that in him as well, because I do think they've got a keeper here in this kid.
Yeah, I mean, I love Javon Baker coming out of the draft. I just think he plays with an attitude, an edge, always making contested catches, which I guess you could go ahead and talk into, as not a great thing that it's always contested, but he makes a lot of tough catches. And look, he didn't have a perfect year. Maybe he's not a great receiver, but the fact that he is able to continue to develop as a receiver at an offense that he's learning and also contribute on special teams. And I thought Taylor Kyles and Evan Lazar, both of them, as always, the two film junkies, posting things on Twitter or X, I thought you could see kind of his development and his fit, and his personality, Steve. Javon Baker's personality, Mike Vrabel's personality, I could see clashing, pretty hard. But I could also see it actually being kind of a kinship, in a bit, and all of a sudden I could see them working together like no problem. And I think the fact that they are able to keep 8 wide receivers and they're willing to do that is a testament to how far he's come on special teams and what his ability, that he's shown on the field. I think it's a testament to him and his second year, when some people wrote him off, including myself, to be honest.
Well, I go back to what Matt Collins said the other day. You know, he was talking about Javon Baker, and he said, it doesn't matter how you get on the bus. In other words, if it's special teams, the fact that you're on the bus means everything. And he said, and again, I might be paraphrasing a little bit, but he was saying something about this is his 9th year in the league, and he was mainly a special teams player for quite a few years. But then he got the opportunity through his work on special teams to work a little bit at wide receiver, and now he's worked himself into a valuable role. He's not a star. He's probably not even a starter, but he's a valuable guy. We saw that with him with Josh Allen, and he's a guy that cuts his teeth on special teams. And when I saw that the other day, I kind of had the feeling that Baker was going to make the team, because I think they told him that hey, you're going to be a special teams guy first, wide receiver second, and Baker was feeling down on himself about it, and that's why Mac Hollins said what he did. And again, I'm just throwing stuff at the wall.
Yeah, you're kind of
here.
prognosticating a little bit, but I think
That
you're
makes sense.
you're right there. I think you're hitting it. I mean,
But anyway, it just I think it's a good thing for him because he's going to get another shot at it, and you know how injuries go. He might see the field as a wide receiver a lot sooner, than later, depending on how things play out.
yeah, you never know with injuries, and I think he's a talented player. I mean, that's why I was excited when they drafted him in the 4th round. So the fact he was able to hang on again, I think it's a testament to him, because if it wasn't for just special teams, it wouldn't have happened. Let's go to tight ends, and we'll move through this one pretty quickly. We got Henry Hooper, and we got Jack Westover as a 3rd tight end. Mike, I saw something that was kind of interesting today, and I tweeted this one out, and this one got a little popular. Greg Dulrich was a tight end for the Giants that was released today, and he had a pretty dang good preseason game, in general, and had multiple touchdowns. I think it was 3 total. And the Patriots just played against the Giants. Their relationship is very close. I could see him being a potential target if they want to add someone there. But Jack Westover making the team, someone who could be a tight end, fullback, kind of interesting. Hooper and Henry, nothing really to talk about there. I mean, we've all kind of discussed it, but any pickup comments on that, or do you think there's a tight end out there too that was cut that you have your eye on?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you mentioned Greg. It'd be the ultimate Bill move, though, wouldn't it? A guy that gives you
100%.
problems in the president. All of a sudden, he ends up on your roster, and hey, who knows? You know what? Maybe he ends up making a play in the playoffs that advances you, or something to that effect. But I could see it happening. It's definitely a possibility, especially that the Patriots are a little thin at the position. Obviously, they're 3 deep. I mean, that's usually what they carry on the main roster. We'll see what the practice squad looks like, whether Dupree or whether G. Scott ends up coming back, or whether both end up coming back on the practice squad. One thing that did intrigue me today and did catch my sharp eye, the Houston Texans released old friend Jakob Johnson.
I was going to bring that. You SOB. I was about to bring that up.
Josh McDaniels loved this kid when he was there. By the way, he's not the only one. I absolutely love Jakob. I love covering him. Great guy. But not only, great personally, but someone who really just knew his role on this team and played it to such a perfect effect. If you're looking for a pure fullback that can come in and play that blocker's role, Jakob is absolutely the right guy to bring in. It wouldn't surprise me to see him wearing Patriot blue at some point this season. Is it going to happen? I don't have any inside information to say one way or another, folks. I can't break that news, but let's just say if it were me, I'd be on the phone already.
I'm just telling you right now that it would not surprise me in the slightest if they IR or something like they could IR like Kendrick Bourne or somebody tomorrow, and all of a sudden Jack Westover's, I don't know, some kind of move, or one or two moves where Jakob Johnson, and then all of a sudden they add like Greg Dulrich, and I just see both those guys fitting in perfectly into this offense, and both those guys, if one of them doesn't land on this team, anyone can send in. I'll send in $50 to any charity, to the first one who sends in the charity they want to donate to, because there's like almost no doubt in my mind it's going to happen. Like I saw Jakob being released, and I was like, all right, well, he's played for Josh McDaniels in two different cities, some 3,000 miles away from each other. He knows the offense. They need it. It makes sense. I mean, the difference would be that he'd be slightly more expensive than Jack Westover. So I don't know. Anyway, Steve, any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I was thinking you might go to me first, because that's what I was going to say about. I think with Jack, don't buy green bananas, right? That one. I have a feeling like right now they're going to use him unless they find somebody. Jakob Johnson might be that guy. The Giants tight end might be that guy, or both. What if they grab the Giants tight end, sign Jakob, and put somebody else on IR? You know what I mean? I mean, that's a distinct possibility. I think both of those moves could conceivably happen. I know they really liked Jakob Johnson when he was here, and he fills that role as the fullback. So now with Josh McDaniels back, he definitely has a hard nose. He runs hard. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Well, as we cruise through here, guys, we're going to go into offensive linemen. Pretty cut and dry, I would say. You have Will Campbell, Jared Wilson, Garrett Bradbury, Michael Onwenu, Morgan Moses, Martellus Bryant, Ladarian Lowe, and then Caden Wallace. I would say pretty standard. I guess Ladarian Lowe, some people might be surprised about, and I get it, but he's not a starting left tackle, but he is at least a serviceable backup, and Wallace is they're kind of moving him around a little bit. He might be playing a little guard, might be playing a little tackle. Bryant's kind of interesting because he could be a swing tackle. Wilson can play center or guard. I think and Ben Brown, by the way, too, as well, who can also play center and guard. I think the biggest story is for me, guys, is the offensive line, because Steve, Cole Strange isn't on this list.
Nope.
And now you have just literally Marcus Jones from the 2022 draft class, kind of the Chiefs standing alone. And man, that sucks. I mean, this is what, I sent the tweet out the other day saying how the people are surprised about the Patriots draft, or the Patriots team and where they stand. And I'm like, dude, they haven't drafted well in like years. It's been years and years and years of stacked on bad drafting classes. And this is what happens when you do that. You want to look at when the Bills got good. Look at when the Bills record switched, and look at their like 3 or 4 drafts prior to that. And then you tell me if drafting doesn't matter, because they built half their team doing that. And 3 years ago, we thought they had a good draft, except for the first pick, which seemed like a reach. And I love Marcus Jones, but he's just a punt returner and a slot corner who's undersized. So, I mean, you're coming away with almost nothing. That is a huge, huge loss. for the team, and that's what buries you and buries you and buries you. I don't want to pile on that too much. It's not really the point of my thing. It's just the fact that Cole Strange is now out, and I'm not surprised because he is undersized and he is kind of lightweight. And we know that Vrabel likes bigger offensive linemen, but I think it is notable that he's not going to make this team.
Yeah. Look, he had the opportunities. They had him out front at the beginning of spring and summer, and he couldn't hold on to it. And then Ben Brown came on, and because both of them have that skill set, they can play, either guard position or center. And Ben Brown outperformed him, and that's what happens. I mean, he had every opportunity to carve out a role for himself. He just couldn't do it. They cut a couple of other guys too that they invested draft capital in.
I mean, City So right there
Like
as well.
Robinson, So, it's going to be interesting to see how the offensive line gels now. I think their starting unit will be Campbell, Wilson, Bradbury, Onwenu, and Moses. But we'll see how that all works out. But at least now they've narrowed it down. They have their, 9 guys. I was one more than I was thinking. But, again, injuries happen. Guys get banged up. Morgan Moses is in a spring chicken. So, maybe that's why they held on to both Marcus Bryant and Madarian Lowe.
Well, I think the fact that Marcus Bryant can play right and left tackle, he's probably more of a right tackle.
Your swing guy.
Yeah, but he's definitely your swing guy. Bradbury is a veteran center. Wilson can play center and guard. You have a lot of guys that either have experience or have some ability to move, like Caden Wallace. Like, he's been playing right tackle and left guard. Like those things can't be passed over too much when you're talking about cutting down guys, Mike. You know what I mean? Like, you only have, yes, there are only 5 spots, but you're usually not keeping, like, it's not like usually like a 5 starters, 5 backups, and like a perfect like alignment in terms of like backup right tackle, backup right guard, backup center. It's usually guys that have versatility and can move around a little bit. You know what I mean? And that's where I think your value shows when you're in that part of the line, in that part of the depth chart.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's exactly how the New England Patriots played it this time around. They're looking at guys that can give them athleticism, that have the size to succeed in a McDaniels offense. I think Doug Marrone knows exactly what Josh is looking for and wants to put the guys out on the field that he believes can complement it, whether it be the starters or whether it be the reserves. I was one of the very few that defended Cole Strange when he was drafted here in New England, simply because I love the athleticism. I love the fact
I loved Cole Strange. I just wanted him in the 3rd round.
Yeah. Well, that's a conversation for another day. I can't disagree with you on that.
I had that conversation. Trust
a lot
me.
of people, a lot of people were upset that he was even drafted, regardless of where. They didn't even want him in the later parts. And, to me, that surprised me because this is a tenacious run blocker. This is someone who has the ability to seal off on zone runs. And at the time, this was what the Patriots were trying to move toward. When they drafted Cole, that's exactly what they were trying to adapt. Obviously, they didn't have the personnel or the coaching staff to be able to pull it off, but that's what he was drafted to do. That's why he came here to New England. So it was no longer a fit. Steve, you were absolutely right in your assessment. He was given the opportunity. He was outplayed by the guys that are on the depth, pieces in this offensive line. And now he finds himself on the outside looking in. I do believe he'll find work fairly quickly. That's a very talented lineman that has started more games than he sat, and I believe will be an asset to a team, especially a team that loves to run the outside zone run. They're going to love Cole Strange in short order. The issue with the Patriots right now is, will their lack of depth or experience depth hurt them in the long run? There are very few positional options that are available on the waiver wire and free agency right now. I didn't see any that were cut down today that were really notable that would lead me to believe the Patriots have a strong interest. And the guys they have on this roster haven't proved to be long-term solutions just yet. So there's going to be a learning curve. There's still questions on the offensive line, but I think they got a good nucleus in place. The question is, will they have the opportunity to grow? I definitely hope, and I know Patriots fans hope that they will.
Absolutely. And, with Doug Marrone, like you said, he's extremely experienced. He's a great offensive line coach. I'm cautiously optimistic because they have him. Just like, so many times we would look at the offensive line in the offseason and saying, oh boy, these guys don't look very good. But then Scarnecchia would draw the best out of those guys. And, a bunch of no names started to play really well. So, with Marrone, I'm kind of, like I said, cautiously optimistic, even though they have two rookies going to be manning the left side.
There was I'm trying to find it right now. It's so frustrating because it's terrible podcasting, but there was a Titans tackle that was drafted by Tennessee when Vrabel was there, so I was looking for, because I was kind of going to keep my eye on him, but that's kind of interesting. But I could see there's going to be some, a little bit of movement, there, and I think that I guess we should mention, as we get into the defense in the front seven, that Jelani Tavai was put on IR but designated to return, so he's still eligible to play. So I think that should be interesting. A little surprised by and Mapu, yep, and Braden Swinson. I feel like he was kind of a complicated prospect to kind of break down. I had some high hopes from him. I still think if he clears waivers, he comes back to the Patriots roster, so that'll be interesting. But we can still kind of keep rolling here as we go through the front seven. Defensive line: Christian Barmore, Milton Williams. We got Kyrus Tonga, Joshua Farmer, Josiah Farms. We got Harold Landry, Caleb Von Chasen, Keon White, Anthony Jennings. Steve, I know you are doing backflips because your boy is still on the roster. And we also got Elijah Ponder, who is another guy who kind of snuck on there too. So that is, a really interesting front seven group. Not to mention, we got Robert Spillane, Christian Ellis, Jack Gibbons, Martin Mapu. So a decent amount of guys up front. A lot of different skill sets. Like Tonga is very different than Williams or Barmore. White and Jennings are very different than Chason or Landry. A lot of interesting versatility on the field, a lot of speed on the field, a lot of tenacity, a lot of violence, and I think that's where Vrabel kind of wanted to go ahead and put his stamp on this team, gentlemen, because you can see it in this front seven. It's exciting. So, Mike, I'll go to you first. Anything that stands out to you about this front seven as we talk about these roster cut downs?
Well, the biggest surprise for me was Swinson being on the cutting room floor. When this kid was
Me
drafted, I thought he was the prototypical Mike Vrabel type pass rusher. This kid has a violence in the way he played. He's coming in with a chip on his shoulder. He thought he should have been better than a fifth-round pick, and he's coming in saying, hey, you guys just got a draft steal. I'm going to work my tail off, and I'm going to make sure to make all other 31 teams pay for passing me over. But throughout training camp, we just never saw that same type of fire. We never saw him emerge from a very talented and very deep core of pass rushers that they have on this team. And it's surprising because you look at the film on this kid when he played for LSU, and I did a lot of scouting of him, even pre-draft, and then especially after the Patriots picked him up. When he's in the pass rush, he's quick to attack the quarterback. That's what you're looking for. That's what Terrell Williams and Mike Vrabel love out of their pass rushers. If the linemen stack the blocks for the run game, he's got the ability, the athleticism to be able to shed those blocks, defend the run. And to me, I thought that set him up perfectly for success in New England. But it goes to show you have to deliver upon the
Right.
promise that you show
Right.
in college. If you don't, you're going to find yourself on the outside looking in. And again, that was a surprise to me. But it's hard to argue with the results and the guys that the Patriots kept over Braden at this point. I hope he clears waivers because I think he has a good amount of ability that the Patriots can utilize in the coming days and weeks and years here in New England. But fifth rounder with all that great collegiate tape tells me someone might take a chance on him and claim him before they let him get go through twice. And
Hard,
get away
hard to
from him
think.
twice.
Hard to think, Mike, that he makes it through. I really do hope that he can stay around because I was excited with that pick. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I could break down his entire tape, but I did scout him a decent amount as I was going through edge rushers, and he was on my list as kind of a late day 2, early day 3 pick. I went in the 5th round, played in the SEC. Will Campbell spoke very highly of him.
Mhm.
I just want him to stick around, and it'd be a bummer to see him go. But that's the way the dice rolls, at this time of year. Just to be honest, and that's just how it
Well,
goes.
I would like to introduce you two guys to Gus, the newest member of the family.
Newest
What's
Gus.
up,
Welcome.
bud?
Welcome to the show, bud.
My beloved bulldog passed 2 months ago yesterday. And we met this little guy who's a French bulldog looking for a forever home. And now he's a member of the clan, and he's a practice squad player for Patriots No Huddle.
Nice.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So,
Um,
what you guys were saying, I totally agree with. I mean, I kind of thought Pecco might stick around as a 6th defensive lineman.
I thought so too, Steve.
Yeah, and I thought he played pretty well, but obviously they were going to move in a different direction.
Well,
I like the guys that they kept there.
But
Obviously.
you know as well as anyone, it's not like this thing is set in stone. We got
Right.
2 weeks, for a lot of moves. There's no way.
Oh.
I would bet my life on the fact that they signed 2 guys at minimum off somebody else's team, or on like the waiver wire or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And they stashed a couple of guys. There's no way it doesn't happen.
Yeah, and for the linebackers, Spillane, Ellis, Gibbons, those 3 we had locked in stone all along. The fact that Tabai is hurt opened the door for Mapu to make it, and again, we could see a change there, at some point. I think the depth is a little thin there. Edge rusher, same. I mean, Chason, Harold Landry, Keon White. I was a little surprised with Anthony Jennings because he doesn't really fit Vrabel's scheme, but he's a good football player.
Look, can I just ask you this question, because I knew you're a big Jennings fan, and what you just said is absolutely perfect. He's a good football player. So if you're to me, Steve, I don't care if you're playing Bill Belichick style of defense or Mike Vrabel style of defense, or Tyrell Williams or Matt Patricia or whoever you want to say. If you can't find a spot for Anthony Jennings on your football team, I would say you need to change your scheme. Because look what he did in the second half of that preseason game.
Yep. And he's he's a very good edge setter. Not so much. He doesn't have the bend like a guy like Landry or
Yeah.
Chason has, but I mean he has some pass rush skills. But he's a very good edge setter, and there'll be times when they need him out there on the field, especially when they get down maybe in the red zone. The opposing team gets in the Patriots red zone because that's
Or
when they're
like
probably going
or
to
like
want to
third
pound.
and short,
Yeah.
couldn't you say
Oh
the
yeah.
same thing versus him? Like him versus Tonga? Like load these guys up in the box and just let them go friggin', blow
Yeah.
somebody up.
But I like the fact that Elijah Ponda made the squad.
Mhm.
I liked what I saw from him. He's a young guy. He's very hungry. And again, like Mike said, I was I was surprised by Braden Swinson. I mean, we've all been hearing since the spring that this guy might be the steal of the draft, and it just didn't work out for him, at least initially. We don't know if they're going to bring him back if he passes through waivers. Um, if he does, they might bring him back on the practice squad and give him time to see if he can work out, what's the deal with him. Because we all had high hopes for him.
Yep. Mike, any other leftover thoughts on the front seven, or can I jump into the defensive backs?
Now you can jump into the defensive backs.
All right, let's do it. So for cornerbacks, we got Christian Gonzalez, we got Carlton Davis, Marcus Jones, we have Alex Austin, BJ James, who I think is another I want to give a tip of hat to because that was a kind of a sleeper pick. Not really recently, but more early, of course. Then you get Kyle Duggar, who we're going to get into, Jabril Peppers, Craig Woodson, Jalen Hawkins, Del Pettis. And I'll include Brendan Schooler, in this, even though I have him kind of classified as a special teamer. So I want to run through this really fast, guys. So Gonzalez is really nothing need to be said. Davis, nothing really need to be said as long as he's healthy. Marcus Jones, I think a matchup kind of player on defense, has his liabilities, certainly because of his size, but excellent special teamer and punt returner. Alex Austin really shined at the end of last season, had a really good summer, and I think that should be noted. BJ James is exciting to add another player to the mix with some depth, with a team with, I would say, very little depth. I think they have some at cornerback and defensive back in general, which should be good. Kyle Duggar, obviously, there's a lot of questions. I thought if you'd asked me to put money on it last week, if I'm a gambling man, which I do love to gamble, I just try not to too much. Uh, I would say I would have probably thought Duggar was going to go, but I would have thought it would have been via trade, not cut. They kept him. I'm happy they did. I think there's a spot on the team for him. He just needs to kind of figure it out. I know Peppers is the same way. Craig Woodson gives them a little bit of more of a kind of a freelance role. Hawkins and Pettis, I think have both shown, especially last year, and in a year where you only won 4 games. I can list multiple moments for both of them that were impressive, and I think that should be, kind of saluted and hat tip to. I think that you saw that a guy like Del Pettis like come out of nowhere and make plays, and even when the season was seemingly over, he was not giving up. He was relentless, and I respect that. So to me, a little surprising that Martin Mapu made it. And I'm kind of including him in this group because he's kind of a tweener. but they classified him as a linebacker. But otherwise, Duggar's the only real surprise, Mike. I don't know what you think about it.
Yeah, Duggar was a surprise to some. Again, I think that if you look at the last few days here in New England, you look at the way he ended the preseason with a couple of strong showings and knowing that he needed to step up and really needed to show what Kyle Duggar can do on a football field. I think he did that. And I think the Patriots looked at it and said, okay, well, you know what? We're comfortable being able to roster this guy if we can't find a trade partner. And again, according to what I've heard, I can't confirm anything right now, but according to what I've heard, the Patriots spent a good amount of time calling around to find out if, in fact, there were going to be takers for him. And the contract, again, folks, became a very difficult thing. The Patriots were going to have to eat an awful lot of dead money. The New England Patriots were not going to save all that much against the cap in order to be able to get rid of him. So those are all factors. They did not want to have to release him. They wanted to trade him, and if they couldn't trade him, I think they were comfortable keeping him on the roster. The question now is, do they continue to look for a trade partner? Is he on borrowed time, or are the Patriots going to assimilate him into their defense? I think it's going to be the latter. I think you're going to start to see the value in Kyle Duggar. I think the Patriots are going to realize that they're better off with him in their defensive backfield than without him, especially when you have guys like Peppers and Hawkins and Woodson playing at the top of their games. So to me, I think that's a win-win for them. I was a little upset to see Kobe Minor cut because I think he made such big strides toward the end of training camp to show what he can do. I look for him to come back on the practice squad. Hopefully no one will nab him off of waivers. I'd love to see him come back to New England. But other than that, no real big surprises for me in the defensive backfield. Glad to see Del Pettis back. I love the hard-hitting style that he brings, and I think he's only going to get better this year. So I'm glad to see him stick around in Foxborough for another tour.
Before I go to Steve, because I want to get your thoughts on this, Steve, too. I love, you just meant, the hard-hitting style of Del Pettis. I love the attitude that Hawkins and Pettis brought last year. Even again, it's a losing team. You're in the hole. You're not going to make the playoffs, and these guys were still playing their balls off. And to me, that means something. Like, it shows you that they are still there to go to war, and I can see why the coaching staff, this current regime, would respect it. And they flashed. Like, they're not. I'm not sure they're starting players, but it's clear they're going to have a lot of safety play. And if those guys can find a role, I think that's huge. Steve, what do you think about that?
Well, going back to cornerbacks, I have no issue with who they kept and why. I mean, I thought that was a no-brainer.
Yep.
Safety-wise, I wrote on Sunday that, for the first time this summer, Duggar was moving like his old self. He's been coming off his
finally
surgery.
healthy.
Yeah, and he started to move like we seen him in 2023, right? So it wasn't a shock to me that he made the roster. In fact, on Thursday, I thought, and again, I wrote this on Sunday, that he looked like a starter playing against backups against the Giants while he was out there. So, the fact that they kept 6 with Schooler, slightly surprising, but no. I mean, again, I know Mike's pressed for time. He has a pressing appointment, so I won't get into it any more there.
No, we're good. We got a couple of minutes. I don't want to take away from your wisdom and counsel, my friend.
No, I love the safety run.
The last real talking point, gentlemen, and then we can go because I know Mike needs to go soon, is that the Patriots kept Andres Borregales, as the kicker. Obviously they have Ashby and Behringer too, as specialists. So that those are 2 names that are worth mentioning. But Borregales is worth mentioning because him and John Parker Romo were neck and neck, and a lot of people think that they kept Borgalis because they drafted him, and I get that argument. I do, but I think obviously the most important thing is that they find a kicker that's stable for an extended period of time because it's been a little up and down. So, Mike, give me your thought on that.
Yeah, 100%. Um, did they keep Andres Barragales because they drafted him? Yes, they did, folks. But it wasn't just because they drafted him. Yes, the draft capital does count. We said this the last time that we had our pod, too, gentlemen. It shouldn't count for as much as it does, but it does. It's a factor. And Patriots fans, any fan of any team, has to understand that if you're going to draft a kicker, yeah, you're going to give him a little bit of an extra look because of the fact that you invested draft capital. But Borregales has a solid track record. He did it for a number of years in Miami. I heard, things going around on social media today that, Borregales can't hit from any further than 40. I think 40 yards was his ceiling. His longest is 56. So, we're not talking 60, 70 yards here, but in a game setting, 56 is still impressive.
Mike, can I also interject the fact that,
Yep.
that they have a former AD of the University of Miami
Right.
in their front office.
Yeah. Who knows his capabilities very well.
Who has the inside track.
Yeah.
By the way, I've heard from someone inside the building, not a coach, not a scout, inside the building, who said he's one of the nicest guys you've ever met. I'm not saying that means he gets to keep his job over John. I'm just saying that he seems like a good kid. No off the field issues. You have a guy that's now in your front office, first year, who came from that university, and you did draft him. So all these things matter. Like those things matter. And that has nothing to do against John.
Right.
Like I think John Parker Romo outkicked him for the most part, but I wasn't there for every practice. I wasn't there for every behind the scenes thing. I don't know that.
And the thing is he did outkick him. I would agree with that. He didn't outkick him so egregiously that you're willing to throw away a 6th-round pick to make that choice. With all respect to Parker Romo, who I think did a tremendous job, and I'd love to see him come back and sign on the practice squad
I
and
hope
have
so.
that depth for the Patriots, because I think it's a smart move to have an extra kicker at your disposal exactly when you need one and not have to search the waiver wire or go and search free agency if something happens to Borregales. But bottom line, when you're a rookie kicker, you're going to have some hiccups, and those hiccups are going to happen during training camp. Obviously, the Patriots were comfortable enough with what they saw to give him the keys to the car and say, okay, it's yours to drive now. Now you have to go out there and be our kicker. So they obviously saw enough in this kid to realize that he is better than the tiebreaker that it would have taken to give the job to Parker Romo. So this wasn't a surprise to me. To tell you the truth, I would have been much more surprised if Parker had gotten this over Borregales. To me, it only would have cemented that they made a poor pick. And from everything I've seen from Andres in this offseason, preseason, and training camp, I don't think they made a poor pick here. This kid will do a good job in New England.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him go, and they have to let him kind of grow. Steve, I want to go ahead to go. I really don't have any final thoughts personally.
Well, real quick, I just thought that I think Romo did a better job in the field goal department. But if we saw in the preseason games that Borregales kickoffs were much deeper.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's a really good point. All I'll say is that, as big of an NFL fan as I am, I always get kind of sad during this day every year because a lot of families have to either move or lose their jobs. And I think sometimes with sports, so many people, I'm not saying it's just the US thing. We just lose like the concept of like the human being effect and like the element of it. And it's a hard day. I mean, yeah, there's they have expanded the waiver wires to 16 people, but you're still even 16 plus 53. We're still talking about 21 times 32 different people ending their dreams, or being sidelined. And I think that shouldn't be ignored. It bothers me. You talk like, I love talking about sports. I love how we do our show, and I always want to do it respectfully, but it's always going to be impactful for me. And it's, especially when it turns into, I still want to bring in the human element of it. And I don't like that some people just gloss over it like it's nothing, because it's not. It's a huge factor. Like one of my close friends texted me today. He was in tears all morning, and that sucks. Like that sucks. So, it's interesting to talk about all this with you guys. I'm looking forward to next week when we can hopefully meet up with a special guest. I have one that's, I think it's going to be able to make us, hang out for an hour, or so. And then we have the game to go ahead and foreshadow. So I'm excited. I really am. But it's as much as we talk about today and kind of give it a little diagnosis, I think it's important that we go ahead and acknowledge that it's a tough day for a lot of people, and that shouldn't be
Absolutely.
ignored. So, Steve, anything else, or are you good?
No, I'm pretty much good. And just to, you know, to follow on that, I mean, in the military, we used to tell guys there was a old saying: "Special Forces is a mistress. Your wives will envy her because she will have your hearts. Your wives will be jealous of her for the power to pull you away, just like in football. The mistress will show you stuff you've never seen and experience things you've never felt. She will love you, but only a little, seducing you to want more. And in the end, she'll leave you for a younger man."
Yep. Well
That's the
said.
human element.
Well, I want to thank everyone who's listened to us live on Patriots No Huddle. We have had a lot of live listeners, a couple of Facebook lives. Um, or I just want to make sure that people do subscribe to us on PatsFans.com YouTube channel. Also, like, share, leave us a review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Mike, why don't you take us out, bud?
Absolutely. And how could I even say anything beyond that? How can I follow that up with the great wisdom and counsel of my good friend and Patriots paisan, Steve Balestrieri? Folks, to echo Derek's sentiments, thank you for taking time out of your day, out of your week, out of your month, really, for these past few weeks and getting to where we are today here with the Patriots building their initial 53-man roster. Thank you for making us a part of that and your daily Patriots coverage. On behalf of my good friend Steve Balestrieri, on behalf of my other good friend Derek Havens, I'm Mike Debate, reminding all of you to stay safe, to stay well, to be the change that you wish to see in the world. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you back here again next time on Patriots No Huddle.